All right, welcome and thank you for having me here today. My name is Bernie Stento. I'm the Certified Athletic Trainer at Chesterton High School in Northwest Indiana. I am an impact-trained athletic trainer. I have been for the last 3 years. I've been asked to come in and talk a little bit about some of the things involved in becoming an impact-trained athletic trainer, but also some of the protocols, some of the ideas to help manage concussions when you're out there in the work world. And really this is a tough thing to do, is transition from being a student where you have help at your university into becoming a young professional and being out there on your own. I think it's one of the toughest jobs in our profession right now. I think we really have to look at how you handle things out in the field, and one way that we can help you with becoming a better manager of concussions is thinking about becoming specialized in the management and treatment of those who have a concussion. The ITAT program has been geared toward helping we in the profession of athletic training become more specialized and making good clinical decisions for them. We have become really the on-field person, the point person, the bridge between many different people at schools, such as parents, guidance counselors, attendance personnel, school nurses, and certainly our coaches that we deal with, whatever the sport is. So we really become a focus of the people around us when it comes to questions. They have questions for us. When's the person going to get back? How come they're not getting better? What do we have to do to make them a little bit better? And by becoming specialized and understanding more about these things, you really improve your ability to be confident in handling those situations. To become an ITAT, you really have to look at making a commitment yearly to do something to improve your knowledge. It really becomes a commitment for continuing education through impact with the webinars and different avenues that they have. And certainly you can do that at your own time with the webinars and the videos on demand. When I looked at becoming an ITAT, I wanted to kind of elevate myself to understand a little bit more myself the clinical interpretation of the impact test. And I wanted to know a little bit more about the intricacies of the data that I was looking at. Prior to that, I did a basic class, and then I went and took the one-day seminar where you learned more in detail over the course of a whole day. What do the numbers mean? What do the composite scores mean? What are the individual sections talking about? And that really becomes a way to help educate the student and the parents where they may have deficiencies. It's also good check and balance to say, I understand that this person is back to baseline, or their normative data is looking a lot better, and that's something that I think is really important to help people understand that the person is getting better. In addition to that, I think it's also really critical that you look at maintaining a daily symptom score, see if they're getting better or getting worse, and that's part of the protocol. Understanding also other tests that have come into play besides just looking at the impact. For example, the vestibular ocular motor screen. About 3 years ago, I also took a webinar looking at vestibular ocular motor screening, and I've made that part of my usual practice to handle the post-concussive individual and making sure that their eyes are working to see if they have a convergence insufficiency, and give more data to a physician to say, okay, they're looking better in this area, but they still have problems with their vision. And the doctor can now become a person who can better manage the individual problems that may be occurring with your evaluation. About a year ago, I also took another 2 seminars, one about clinical trajectories, which really will help you understand what is this person specifically dealing with, problems with anxiety, emotional issues, sleep problems, vestibular problems, and that kind of falls in line with the vestibular ocular motor screen. And also looking at vision therapy. I took a nice seminar looking at, okay, what do you do with someone who has a vision problem? And now finding people in your community that might be specialists in dealing with vision therapy to get those people funneled into the right people to help them get better. Most recently, I took a webinar looking at the issue of cervicogenic problems, issues with the neck, especially with a whiplash type of an injury that continue to be a problem that cause symptoms up in the head. And that is certainly something I want to learn a little bit more in the future as well too. So what I think you ought to think about is how you can now become a better clinician by doing something on a yearly basis to learn more about handling things out in the real world. Really, we're the ones that are going to have to do that on the field, but many times the next day or the day after when a concussion is reported to us. I think it becomes a specialization that you can now become your own local focus person to help answer questions and guide people and bring reassurance to parents. They always have questions and they always want to have reassurance that their son or daughter is going to get better. And I think it really becomes a great focal point to help local doctors know what the impact scores are. Many of them don't know that. They heard of impact, but they don't know what the numbers on the sheet means, and you can print it out and say, okay, this area there's a deficiency. This area has gotten better from the last test. These two areas are better from the last test and have received or have gotten back to baseline, but this one area still is a problem. And I do think that that is a critical help for the doctors to interpretate what's really going on with the impact, the vestibular ocular motor screen. We can do balance testing and other things that might be going on that have contributed to a protracted recovery. So becoming an ITAT elevates your knowledge. It helps you to understand that maybe there is a better way to handle people on the field. It, I think, streamlines your time when you're dealing with the athlete, because you're going to have to manage more than one concussion at a time. Whether you like it or not, you're going to have multiple kids with multiple concussions. And if you know what the protocol is that you want to do on a certain day, you can handle it with the kids that you're dealing with, even though they may be at different times during their concussion. You can figure out ways that you can put them together and do impact testing in a computer lab, schedule it, get it all done at one time, and then interpret the scores and see how they do. And then lastly is the exertional testing. Certainly that is related also to returning back to sport in an appropriate manner. It's also based upon what goes on in your own individual high school association or state association and the laws that are also in the United States. So that we're returning kids back to participation, to academics in an appropriate manner so that most of them go back and do well when they return. That's the goal. Return back, be a good academic student, and also have fun playing sports.